Hello and welcome to John's Author Diary for the weekend in April the 19th, 2020. I have had a really busy week. I've been working really hard to get my redraft of the Tower complete. So this is book 16 of the Ravenglass Chronicles. Now, if you've been following this podcast for a while, yes, it is complete. It's taken me less than 2 weeks. It's actually taken me 9 writing days from doing the outline to getting the draft finished. This is the final draft. It's ready for the editor. I think it's probably the quickest I've written one of these episodes. I think part of this is because it's a really exciting episode. There's a lot going on, a lot of action, a lot of adventure, a lot of excitement. So really pleased with how it's turned out. As I'm recording this, I've just outlined book 17, which is called The Star. I am working now towards the ending of the series. So this means 5 episodes left. And it's a bit of a crazy feeling, to be honest, that I've come so far with this series now. When I was writing the author note for book 16, it did feel like I've come really far with this series. So starting next week, I'm going to be going over the final line edits, proofreading with my wife for Blind Reset. So this is the second book in my Gambit series. It'll be the final book in that series. So I think we're going to try and do that over occasional evenings. It's just a little bit awkward because what we usually do with the final proofread is we'll do a day on Tuesdays, usually when my wife's off work. Obviously, we're all at home now, so my son needs homeschooling and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing it in the evenings, trying to do maybe 4,000 or 5,000 words in an evening. So we're going to start that, I think, next week. I think my priority at the moment is to get the next Ravenglass book proofread. So I think we're going to do that first and then move on to Blind Reset. Once I've written the next episode of the Ravenglass Chronicles, The Star, I think what I need to do is turn my attention to the Wasteland series. So I've still got the first draft of Cleric of the Wasteland, Gathering Dust. So that is on pre-order for September. And I think based on the way this year's going, that is going to creep up on me. So I need to start working on the redraft of that, get that series wrapped up. So I mentioned, I think at the end of last year, that 2020 was going to be about clearing the backlog of projects. So I could start 2021 with a new series. And as it's going, it's looking like it's going to be on track. I've got the non-fiction books out the way. I should have the Ravenglass Chronicles done, and I'll have the Gambit and Wasteland series wrapped up. The only thing that's lingering, really, is the Black Death trilogy. Now, this is a realistic story about a pandemic, and to be honest, I don't know whether that is a book that people are going to want to read at the moment. So it's still with co-author. He's got his own stuff to deal with in terms of the coronavirus and working from home and all that. So I don't know what's going to happen with that series. I don't know if it's ever going to come out. I have given myself the hard deadline of if it's not out by the end of the year, then screw it. I'll take the scenes that I've written. I will maybe tweak them and just put them out as a standalone novel. So instead of it being a trilogy, it'll just be one book. Hopefully it won't come to that. But I started writing this in like November, I think, 2017. So I'm going to have that in my mind as clearing the backlog. So whatever happens, that'll come out. I really can't see it doing very well now, unfortunately. I think just because of the way this has worked as a collaboration and, you know, one of the co-authors leaving and things like that. So that has left us having to do a lot of work, which I don't think will pay off. I think we've left a lot of money on the table, to be honest, but what can you do? There's nothing I can do about it. I did everything I could. I think it's a lesson in maybe I just need to concentrate on doing things myself, having control of that, because I can't control what other people do, and that leads to frustration and resentment and things like that. So I just need to go forward with my own stuff, stick with the plan of writing fantasy in the future. So next week then I will start writing The Star. Again, there's a lot going on. It should be quite an exciting one. I don't know whether I'll be able to do another episode in 2 weeks again. If I do and I can keep that momentum going of writing an episode every 2 weeks, then that will lead me till maybe the end of June. So who knows, maybe it'll be better just to focus on the Ravenglass Chronicles and then work on the Wasteland series after that, get that wrapped up. I don't know. It's all up in the air at the moment. I just need to work out what's best. It might just be that if I switch to the Wasteland series, it might be a bit too much of a mind switch, if that makes sense. So I just need to maybe focus, keep the flow of the series going while the go is good, because I think I'm more productive in the spring and summer. So focus on that, get that done. Yeah, I think that's my mind made up, really. I think that's what I'm going to do. So a bit of live thought process going on there. So in terms of reading this week, I finished reading The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. This was trash, but in a good way. just a bit of a roller coaster. It was a bit ridiculous at points. I've said it before about Dan Brown stuff that, I write fantasy and I think his stuff is more fantastical than anything I've done. And I've got magic and wyverns and hive mind sailing ships and things, so it was fun. Though the suspension of disbelief was in full effect. Let's just put it like that. I'm currently reading a book. It's a non-fiction book called The Law of Monstrous Creatures. So this is just a historical look at different types of monsters in the mainstream, I suppose you'd call it. So I've just read the first couple of chapters of that about vampires. Very interesting, really cool to kind of put this stuff in historical contexts and to see where the legends evolved and I guess the kind of psychological and sociological underpinnings of these creatures. I've been watching a show with my wife on Netflix called Tiger King. So this is about a guy who runs his own private zoo that's full of tigers. At least that's a premise. It's also a bit of a true crime documentary and a look at some of the craziest lifestyles and strangest people you're likely to come across. So what I like about this in terms of the storytelling is that it's really good with cliffhangers and hooks. And it almost feels like as you're going through the series, your assumptions about what the story is keeps changing. So you think, this is going to be about a guy in a zoo. Oh, actually, no, it's about a rivalry between these two zoo owners. Oh, no, actually, it's a crime drama documentary thing. So it's very strange. It's very interesting. It's really well done. There's no clear good guys and bad guys. They're all creepy and flawed in their own ways. Joe Exotic is just a fascinating character. So I recommend checking it out. I've appeared on a couple of podcasts this week, so these have gone live. I recorded a podcast called The Too Young Movie Club, and so the premise of this is it's kind of a nostalgic look at a movie that you watched that you were probably too young for when you were a kid that had an impact on your life. So I chose Terminator 2 because I watched this when I was about 10 years old, something like that. So I'll talk about that and just kind of reminisce about that movie for a while. And I also talk about Terminator 2 on the Sci-Fi Roundtables episode that came out this week. In that one we were talking about time travel and some of the problems that can cause and the different ways that time travel has been utilised in various forms of fiction. So that's the Too Young Movie Club and the Sci-Fi Roundtable. So until next time, cheerio.